Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue our house series right here at BusyWorksBeats.com. I've been listening to and watching a lot of Love Island on Hulu with my fiance and on Peacock as well. And so they play house music all the time. And then every time house music plays, I just start dancing to the scene out of nowhere. So we're going to switch into FL and we're going to make a house track from scratch. You're going to get the project files for free. Just go to BusyWorksBeats.com. Right at the top, it says free downloads. So just log in for free and then you'll be able to access it. All right. So firstly, with house music, we have to have a central idea. So what I'm going to do is load up a sample here. We're going to build around it and then take the idea away. This is what top producers do as well. So we're going to grab this track by Paul Hardcastle called Rainforest. And I really love the melody of this track. So let's turn this down and then let's play a little snippet and then we'll chop it up and then we'll use it as a template. So if you never heard it, it goes dun, 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 dun. Okay. So again, number one rule for house, you got to get the people dancing. How do you do that? You make your rhythms very bouncy. Today's seal is a great way. Let me skip ahead. Here we go. So first I want to find the downbeat. If you are a sampler, we're going to find that downbeat. Now, a lot of house music on, Love Island is sampled stuff. It's remixes. So what we're going to do is kind of flip this too. One. Okay, so it starts right here. Hit Shift Alt, grab your slice tool. Shift Alt to do a vertical slice like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and slice. Okay, very important that you count the music without the metronome. Okay, we're going to click in the top, go to Make Unique as Sample. This will basically make just this piece of audio its own thing instead of the entire song. Okay, it's not like Ableton where it just recognizes different pieces of audio. Double click here. We're going to go to mode. We're going to use stretch mode here and then move the time knob until it locks into the grid. So now we can switch it to any tempo. This is a little slow, but this will be some cool funk. It's a little slow though for house. So let's go to 128 BPM. This is a very danceable BPM, 108, 115, 128. Anything in around that range is danceable. Let's double click in here. Let's pull the time knob down to 4 bars. And it loops perfectly. Okay, so that's going to be our template to understand where to put stuff. If you struggle with making beats, this is a good technique because it forces you to not conflict with the existing groove. Okay, so let's go to our packs here. We're going to look for a sample pack from Vengeance Sample Packs that actually adds something and matches the texture. Let's go to the house pack. Let's look for loops. Let's go to, now this is not a Latin house, so let's see what this sounds like. No, we're not doing Latin house. Let's just do regular house loop. Really all we need is but I just don't feel like programming that. So in this case, this is where I would use the loops. This is all I need. That's it. A lot of these other bongos and stuff, it's cool, but let's quickly go through these. Okay, this, even though it's not the exact loop I want, we're going to drag that in. Double click, pull the time knob to lock it into the nearest bar. So in this case, it's a 2-bar loop. And then I'm going to ask myself, does it conflict with the sample? The answer is no. So let's hit Control B to latch paste. You don't always need hi-hats, by the way, but let's just turn this down. So again, my questions are, does this conflict with the sound? Now let's find kicks. So sound selection is you guys' number one flaw when it comes to any beat making. So this is why we use references, because now we can hear the texture of the kick in context of other instruments that have already proven to work. So let's go to where it says either soft kicks or hard kicks. I think this type of beat needs a softer kick, not a hard kick, because it's not transient heavy. Now, also with house, some of their kicks are like lasery sounding, like okay. So it's not hip hop where they're very punchy and strong like trap drums. House drums are more big and they have a lot of pitch bending to them, and that adds to the sound. So sometimes hearing a kick by itself, you're like, who would ever use that kick? But in context, it works. Like this kick, you wouldn't think to use that kick, but it works for this type of track. Now, some people drag their kicks into the playlist. I think that's, one way to do it, but because we want a little more control, what we're going to do is actually right click, open this up in a channel so that we can add patterns to this and change it up over time. Click here where this little icon is the channel rack. And all we have to do really to shortcut the kicks is just right click, fill each 4 steps. This creates 4 to the floor timing. Let's go to our patterns and just drag this pattern in. And now let's hit play. Now you'll notice that my do is a little early. It feels rushed. Okay, so let's go to the kick. And what most people don't do is go to the wrench tool and turn up time shift. This will let the kick kind of settle into a groove. A lot of house beats that I hear, the kick is way too early. And now it feels like it's in the groove, whereas before, let me copy this. That could work. Okay, I like that groove. But this one just feels more cohesive. So sometimes you need to delay that kick. It's not always perfectly quantized to the downbeat. Now we could add effects here. We're not gonna mess with the effects. Let's go to snares and claps. Now again, here's where we really need to get the texture right, the snare. If you use a snare that's like, then it feels very stop and go-ish, like boom, start, stop, start, stop. Certain snares make the beat feel like it's about to stop. So you gotta be careful with these. These tighter snares are more for like grooves, like those types of beats that are very stop and go-ish. So if you're looking for something to keep the beat moving, look for shorter transients or look for claps because they're more spread out and less like stop. See how this snare is spread? Whereas this one's like, this one's like, so that's the difference in snares. This one stops the beat. Let's go through some snares and claps. Okay, so you can see certain sounds kind of keep the beat flowing, whereas other snares kind of make it chokes the beat. So let's go to pattern 1 where we have that kick. And this is kick, snare, kick, snare. You can get more bouncy with the bass, okay? And I'll show you guys how to sidechain. We're not there yet. So let's add these claps. This is a layer of the clap. You can do the same thing with the clap. Go to the wrench tool, turn up time shift. So as you can see in the sample, the bass is dum 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 dum. It's doing all this stuff. So what we can do, here's a new feature in FL Studio 21.2. Click the top left. I would only do this for short samples because it will take time. I'm going to show you guys how long it takes in real time, but only do this for short samples. And by short samples, I mean that you made it unique, because if I double click in here, it's just what we chopped. It's not the entire song. Some people may chop, but it's still the entire song, and it will take forever to extract the stems. So click here, go to extract stems from sample, and we want to separate everything. And you could limit CPU. Okay, so that's cool. Let's just hit extract. So again, I could talk through this process, but again, it takes a lot of time. So I would not recommend this as like a go-to thing, only for like 2 to 4 bar, 8 bar at max audio. Anything beyond that is just going to take way too much. It's going to kill your vibe. Okay, so I would use Serato sample really, if anything. So it depends on the tempo that you guys are at. So not everything is time stretched. Sometimes it will be off tempo. Just double check that. Anyhow, let's use the mute tool to mute different layers. So let's mute the drums out of the sample. Let's solo the drums first. And let's turn this down. It's super loud. And just listen to what drums they have. Kick, snare, hi-hat. And the snare has a reverb. And there's this little lasery sound that goes. Some percussion in there. I thought that was a laser, but it's actually a wooden percussion. Okay, so the next layer is the bass. Okay, so now you can use that rhythm. And as you see, the bass does not start on the downbeat. It's delayed. That's what creates that groove for the bass. Most people are quantizing their bass to make the bass notes start right at the beat. And then the songs sound all tight and uptight. Okay, so let's go to the next layer, which is the melody. This is the main thing. We might keep this in here, but because I'm sharing the files, I'm going to delete it. So now let's layer that without their drums. Now we can start to layer our own idea. Okay, so it's pretty standard right now. There's not a lot of movement yet, okay, because we didn't add the sidechain and we didn't add the bass. So now let's go to the bass. There's so many default plugins you guys could use for bass. If you're going for more of an Afro sound, go for the Fruity DX10. Look for what's called the log drum preset. Okay, and Amapiano sound. I keep saying Afro, but Amapiano. This is a really good preset just for house in general. Let's hit Control L, send that to the mixer. I learned this from X Dizzle, so go subscribe to X Dizzle. He told me about the log drum preset. And let's go to here. So now I gotta think about the groove of the bass. Now I'm gonna do it by ear. I'm gonna teach you guys something called tresillo, which is just 3 notes. Ta, 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 ta. That's not triplets. Triplets is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now let me go to triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's not bouncy. Tresillo is bouncy. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, so that's bouncy. So let's just use one note for now. Whoops. And make it simple to draw out tresillo. So it's dun, dun. And we need to change our grid to 1/4 beat because we're at 128 BPM. So again, this is not triplet timing. And remember, the bass sounds unheard because it doesn't have enough room. It's fighting with the transient. Let's just copy and paste this. So the bass sounds rushed. So let's go to the bass. Let's go to the wrench tool. Under the cog icon, go to the wrench tool, turn up time shift. And just do it until you feel the bass. I think this is a good spot for the bass. So here is a more advanced technique I'm going to show you guys, which is shifting the tresillo. So I only teach this after I teach you basic tresillo. So now we can hit shift left and right to move the notes in increments. This is good for just trying new rhythms. You wouldn't really think to do that. Hit shift right one more. That really emphasizes that downbeat, whereas this one really emphasizes that in-between timing. Let's keep doing it. This one emphasizes those double notes. This one emphasizes the snare placement. So as you can see, as I move these notes, kind of like the snare placement one. So that double note is very important because it emphasizes things. This feels like I'm roller skating. That one's dirty. This one's filthy right here. So tresillo can get you started. Now what we're going to do with these first 2 notes is just pull them back to the beginning. and decide, do you want them or not? So in this case, let's just delete the first note. I like this because it creates anticipation for that note to hit. So now you can get crazy with this. Now, different sounds do different things. So this one, let's see if the velocity sensitivity changes the filter type. So I don't think it does. Depending on the plugin, you could have it basically where the velocity determines either the FM amount or the filter. For beginners, you don't need to know what that means. It basically just changes the texture of the sound depending on the velocity. In this case, it doesn't. So what you could do is just move some of these notes, highlight, hit Control, hit Shift. And just pull those notes away. So again, at this point, I think the hi-hats are just the thing that's super quantized. We're gonna grab this slip tool here and hit Alt and then left click to slowly nudge these to the right. Now I forgot, slip tool doesn't, it moves the other way. So let's do the pencil tool, hit Alt, left click and just drag this. Or you could hit Alt and then hit right on your keyboard. See how the hi-hats feel bouncier now? That one tiny move. Now what's important though, you go to the slice tool, hit Shift, right click to delete any overlapping audio. Because even if it's like a tiny little bit over, it will drag it out for another section and it will mess up your rhythm. So let's delete that. Now let's say there's too many notes, it's fine. Okay, what we're gonna do is we can always go back and revise. Now let's set up what's called a side chain. So the first thing we need to do is send everything to the mixer. In FL, what we can do to get rid of any excess audio that we're not using, go to Tools, go to Macros, and go to Remove. Where is it at? Let's go to Delete. I just used it. Purge all unused audio clips. Purge unused audio clips. So let's do that. So now we have less audio clips taking up space. And now what we need to do is send everything to the mixer. So go to your channel rack here. Make sure you click this little black thing. Go to All. This shows the group. Okay, and then we're gonna, anything with the little dash that doesn't have a number is not routed to the mixer. If you don't see these, hit Alt M on your keyboard. And then we're gonna hit Control L on all the sounds that aren't routed automatically currently. So I just routed 2 more sounds to the mixer. Now in the mixer, we're gonna create another group. We're gonna right click and create a group, rename this like sidechain. So anything I want sidechain will go to this group. So I want the melody and the hi-hat sidechain. To do this, we're gonna hit Control, left click to highlight both audio clips and then right click and route to this track only. So now those 2 tracks are going directly to this group and I'll color it for you guys so you know that it's a group. And oops. Okay, so now on the sidechain, we need to set up the plugin called Fruity Limiter. Okay, and then go to what's called compressor mode and basically just lower the threshold down and turn your ratio all the way up. It won't do anything right now. Well, actually just compress the sound. But we need to find the kick, which is track channel 3. I'm gonna go to the kick, right click the sidechain input and sidechain to this track. Okay, so now it's a sidechain input, basically an invisible input. Make sure you're on compressor mode, right click and select your kick from the input. Over time, if you start moving stuff around, FL will reroute these. So just make sure that if you move tracks around and change channel numbers, you might have to come back to this plugin and right click to select your kick again. So now every time the kick hits, it lowers the volume. So now to me, the bass feels a little more active with that sidechain. It seems too active. So let's cut out some of these. Just right clicking to delete notes. So Tresillo gives us the structure and then we can always go back and cut stuff out. Now, another famous effect people add is, let's go to our mixer. Let's find our log drum sound, and they like adding fruity chorus to any of those kind of bass sound. So it widens it out. If you don't like the chorus sound, you could try the Fruity Stereo Enhancer plugin. This does a similar effect. Just turn up the phase offset. So now we just need to turn up sounds in the channel rack. Let's turn up that kick a little bit. So that's how we create dynamics. So I delayed the bass even more because the bass is trying to be the transient, and that's not what we want it to be. Okay, so let me show you one last thing, which is a simple filter. Let's highlight this, hit Control B. So let's say you wanted to filter. Let's go to our mixer, find your sample. Let's go to Parametric EQ2, and we're gonna click here, left click, change this to what's called a high pass. So what I wanna do is have this do that over time. So let's right click the frequency, create an automation clip. Okay, it will create this thing called an automation clip. Let's change our snap to grid to a bar so it's easier to use. And I want this thing to basically start low, go high over time, and it will filter out the sound. So let's go to the area where it starts to filter. So at this point, I might take out the kicks too. And let's make this pattern unique. Click here to make this unique. And let's change the ending here to be a little more dramatic with the bass. Like do 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 do, something like that. Something like that. Okay, you can have a more cooler ending. And then it goes into it loops back. Okay, so getting to this point, just mess with the kick timing. And just ask yourself, can people dance to this track? Let's arrange this a little bit so it has somewhat of a build-up quality. Take out the kicks right away. So if you start the track with the bass, there's no excitement to it. I really don't like the snares on this. I didn't realize there's snares. So this is a more advanced technique. We're going to use the limiter to take out any transients. You don't need to memorize this. I'm just basically going to take out these like snares. Or, I'm trying to think, could we just chop the sample? Let me think for a second. So let me see if I could just chop the snare out. That might be easier actually. Okay, so let's hit Shift Alt, left click, and then Shift Alt, right click. Yeah, we're getting rid of these snares because they're not making this sample sound better. Okay, so in that case, I'm going to manually copy and paste this. Now I'm glad we did it this way because I'm going to show you guys a shortcut to copy and paste timing. So again, a lot of people teach you Control B. The problem with that is it's latch paste. So if I hit Control B, it will just paste to wherever it ends. That's great for patterns that are perfectly cut. For this, it's not perfectly cut to a time. We're gonna highlight it, hit Control to highlight, hit Shift and left click and drag. So now it will copy the actual timing of the notes so that you could arrange it easier. So now highlight, hit Shift, hit Shift, left click, drag. Now at the end, I'm pretty sure I cut out a hi-hat by accident, but it is what it is. So in this case, let's see if I can recover that hi-hat that I probably cut out. All right, so that's the end of the sample. Okay, so I got to do this again because I cut out the open hi-hat at the end. So that's key to that rhythm. But at least you learned how to copy and paste. So let's hit Control, highlight all of this, get rid of it. And now just make sure your thing is sliced. Hit Shift, right click to delete anything on the smaller end. Hit Shift and then left click to drag these notes like so. Okay, so now we have that rhythm. You might even not even arrange it that way. Let's do it this way. Let's pull back the bass a little bit. It's a little loud. Okay, so let's say you want to add your own melody. What we're going to do now is just turn off the melody and see what we can add. Now, if you struggle with melodies, I would keep their melody on so that you can stay in key. And let's load up some plugins. Now, this part, the reason I left it for last is because it's up to your imagination, the melody you want to create. There's no right or wrong way to make a melody. Let's just click in Harmore. Let's go to Bells. Now, the sound selection, you're not going to find a lot of the sounds stock in FL. You're just not. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and act like you can do everything with 3 plugins. Sometimes you're going to have to invest in synth plugins. Now, I don't know that exact synth for that record either. But this bell works. So I want to go dun, dun, dun. And also you can use your typing keyboard. Right click here. Make sure it's at C4, layout piano. Just right click each one of those. And I'm using my typing keyboard. So now I'm going to create a little bell pattern over top. And let's record notes and automation. Okay, so I recorded a long melody because I created little change ups. Let's double click in here. I'm going to quantize, hit Alt Q to quantize. And there's a part that I hit the wrong note. I think it's right here. Now, when I quantize, the notes are super on the grid and they sound too robotic. Not that the timing is wrong, but that the beginning of the sound is wrong. So quantizing is good, but what we're going to do is delay the sound. It's not fitting the groove. Let's go to the cog icon, go to the wrench, and turn up the shift until this fits in that groove. See, I'm fitting in that groove. Okay, so that's why a lot of beginner house music doesn't sound right, because people are putting their sounds too early. Okay, so now we need to find, let's see what else is in the melody. We have a flute, we have a bell, and then we have piano chords. So that's the bell. We have piano chords and like somewhat of a bass. Okay, so nextly we have our bell. Let's just label this bell. We need our flute. Now, I don't know a good stock flute. So I'm sure Sakura has one, but my Sakura acts weird sometimes on the Mac. So we'll pray that this works. Let's go to, I'm not sure it has woodwind stuff in here. Yeah, it won't let me click on the presets. So my Sakura doesn't like do anything. I don't know why. On Mac, it doesn't work the same. So in that case, trying to think, I think Harmore has a flute. If not, we'll use Citrus. I don't think this has a flute either. So as you can see, sound selection is going to take a while, especially with stock stuff. Okay, Citrus, presets. Let's go to where it says woodwinds. Usually it's under that category, wind. Okay, here's a flute, according to them. Let's see what this sounds like. Take Control L, send it to the mix. So now I'm just gonna record. Now, in this case, I'm gonna turn off the original melody so I don't get distracted by their flute. But remember, their flute came in at the end. And it does do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. It just does a little ending. So let's record Notes and Automation and come up with an ending. Let's just copy their ending. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that's the flute. What we're gonna do though is move this to a new pattern, hit Control X, move to a new pattern, hit Control V. This way we can arrange it easier in the screen. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that. So you're in context. Now for the flute, I'm not gonna quantize because it takes away that feel. Now let me see if their flute has a delay on it. I can't tell. It goes, it has like a delay on it. So let's go to the mixer here and let's add a Fruity Delay 3, very slept on plugin. And let's turn down the wet level first and then mess with the delay time. So we're gonna put this on 2. You can read the value in the top left, time is 2.0. Just turn down the wet level. And that adds more bounce to the track too, that delay. Okay, so now we need some chords. Their piano sounds like it has chorus. Now, stock FL's keyboard sounds are not good, okay? So I'm not gonna lie to y'all and say you can get that sound. I'm trying to think of a plugin that would give you roughly that sound. Let's try FL Keys, but this is not gonna have the exact sound. And let's go to the presets. And I think they have ePiano. Okay, let's hit Control L. So this is a little advanced, so I'll do the chords for you. We're gonna click here. Now I don't know the exact chords, but what I do here is dun. So I'm gonna latch onto that note. Dun. Just double click, right click, go to piano roll. Dun. I definitely hear this note in the keyboard. So let me listen to all the top notes I hear in this chord progression here. So I hear dun. Then I hear dun dun. So it goes dun. What they're doing is the top line is the same, but they're changing out the bottom chord. We could always figure that out. So it's dun, 1, dun, 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 dun. Okay, so now we have the top notes. I'm going to give you guys shortcuts because I teach this at busyworksbeats.com in our premium music production training. But basically, you're probably going to start, for a jazzier feel, you're going to start with the 9th chord. Go to your chord stamp right here. We're going to go to where it says minor 9th and just make sure the top note is the top note that you mapped out a second ago, which is D sharp in this case. If it's not this chord, hit Alt-G to ungroup the notes, highlight the 2nd and 4th note, and hit Shift up. This converts it to a major 9th. And that feels wrong, quote unquote. So it's definitely a minor 9th chord. We're going to copy this chord, hitting Shift. And chances are this is also a minor 9th. In house music, they did a lot of what's called transposing the chords. So you wouldn't introduce a new chord type. You would just transpose it down or move the chord down relatively. So this chord, though, I feel is different in the actual song. So the way I'll show you guys the trick is take your tonic, take your 5th. You don't need to know what that means. And just hit Shift down. That will make the chord feel different. Now, I forgot we had the 9th. So in that case, we would also transpose the 9th. But what I'm going to do is pull the entire chord up. So essentially, we just took the 3rd and the 7th, pulled it up. Let's see what this sounds like. Now this last chord, it just sounds wrong. So let's take this 3rd. You don't need to know what this means. And the 7th and hit Shift up, convert this to a major chord. It feels better, so to speak. So let's hit Control B. And now we need to control the volume. So I'll show you guys quick techniques. Just double click. I'm moving a little quicker here because this is kind of beyond the scope. Go to Tools, Humanize. You might have to download this script from the Image Line forums, and we're going to mess with all the settings. I have the start time offset, velocity offset. Grab your slice tool. Any overlapping notes, hit shift right click to delete any overlapping notes. In FL Studio, it doesn't trigger overlapping notes. And also hit Alt X and change your multiply to turn down the velocity relatively. I kind of want to copy the melody. It's in my soul to copy that melody. Wait. Wait. I kind of have to copy it for this because it so strongly sounds like the original. So let me record this. I'm going to go by memory. 2, 3, 4. So I don't have all the notes, so I just hit the rhythm. Okay, so now we're going to manually click the notes in. I'm just going to copy the melody. Now this sounds off because remember in the actual bell, we have it delayed. So what I'm going to do for this melody is just clone this, right click, clone the bell. And this way we can give it its own timing. Hit Control V, go back to the cog. I know I'm moving quick, but you guys will get these project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com. Links in the video description. And then we're going to do, so now I'm quantizing the notes, Alt Q. So this would be. Doom. Okay, so that's the melody. Now let's hear this in context. It's kind of hard to hear the track without that melody. Let's go to song mode. So because now when I create a contrast between that bell and this bell, what I'll do for the first bell is send it through delay and reverb and kind of wash it out. So let's go to the mixer. Now what we have to do is separate the sounds. Hit Control L for that second bell, bars. Go to the mixer now, find the first bell, which is mixer channel 11. And let's add some reverb or something to make the sound longer. Let's go to Fruity Reverb 2 and just pull back the dry level. Turn up the wet level. Kind of wash out the sound. Let's move the high cut. You can mess with the mod too. Now here it got a little busy, so what I'll do is I'll just copy that. We're just gonna copy the first part so it doesn't interfere. Okay, the first bell is kind of getting annoying. So let's only do it for the beginning as like a washed out effect. I forgot one note too. So this needs to loop back. Okay, so it needs to bounce. There we go. So let's say you want, this is the last trick because I'm going too deep into music production at this point, but let's say, and I'll probably show you how to do the mix bus and then we'll wrap it up. So let's say you want this to be bigger. What we can do, this is advanced to intermediate level. So we're going to take this sound, left click the up arrow to send it to a new channel. So let's call this channel reverb. On this reverb channel, what I'm going to do is sidechain a reverb. So let's add a reverb, Fruity Reverb 2. We want it to be only wet level. So right click, hit R to reset, turn the dry level down, turn the decay time up, and turn the high cut up so that you could hear the frequencies of the actual bell. And now what I'll do is set up a sidechain using Fruity Limiter. Okay, or you could do, we'll just do Fruity Limiter and switch it to compressor mode, turn the threshold down, turn ratio up. Find that kick, which is on channel 3, right click, side chain to this track. So now the kick not only goes to the first side chain, but this side chain as well. We're gonna right click, select our kick. And every time the kick hits, it lowers the volume of the reverb. I'm gonna turn up the reverb a little bit more so you guys can hear. And then I'll solo just the kick and that reverb happening. Give me a sec. So now it's like womp, womp, womp with the reverb. Okay, so you can mess with the reverb amount. I still think we need to tighten up the kick and the bass timing. Let me mess with different bass techniques now that we copied their melody. I think this new bass shifted to the right sounds cooler. It just fits this new structure that we have. So that's why I said build in Tresillo and then you can move it around. Take off that stereo effect because it also has a time delay. Start labeling this stuff. I'm gonna change that chord, that second chord. Let's just do a different chord. Whoops. Now here's where I could sit here all day and try to figure out the exact chord they use, but what I'll do is transpose this down. It didn't feel that low. It felt like a half step down. Trying out different voicings. This one sounds too tense. Also, we can layer that piano. I forgot to add some chorusing onto it. So let's go to the mixer. Let's add fruity chorus to the piano. Let's add fruity chorus. Let's layer this piano and let's go back to Fruity FL Keys and let's switch it out for one of these presets. I think it's called Dance Piano. This gives us more of a transient. Instead of going down, let me see here, man. They probably did that. Let's try that instead. There we go. Going upward always creates a happier feel. Going downward sounds too sad. There we go. That sounds better. Also, I felt like they had a string pad in there, but again, we're getting too deep into the woods here. But the last thing I would try is just adding a string pad, like from Harmore, or even this is too. Citrus might have a easier string patch. I know Sakura has stuff, but my Sakura doesn't work. So let's go to presets. Where is synth string? Okay, this might be too full sounding, but it's not even full sound. Now remember, we need to sidechain these elements because they're just playing without being ducked. So now it's just a matter of leveling and mixing. I'm grouping the keys for you. That bass needs to follow that hi-hat pattern. To get something like that. And now you can go through different kicks. See how the softer kick just feels better? That's why sound selection is so important. That hard kick was making it too aggressive on the transient. So, because we have workers down the street, I don't want you guys to get distracted by all the construction work. So what I'll load up on the mix bus is, let me think. Let's use Maximus. I don't really use this plugin, but you guys tend to. So what we're gonna do is widen the master. Let's solo each band. I'm gonna pull the bass in to merged or mono. Let's widen out the mids. Keep the highs pretty tight. Okay, so you could also saturate things by messing with this saturation. When you turn it up, it saturates the sound. There's two different saturation types. So you have A and B. Turn the ceiling down, you can hear the crunch. So turning it to the right gives it way more crunch. that fruity compressor. Still feel like the melody's a little too fast. Now the compressor is hard to explain because you can't see anything, so I'll just set this up for you guys. I'll add an EQ just for you guys if you want to add more bass. I don't think we need any more bass. Let's see if I'm doing too much for this track. Let's pull this up an octave. I think it needs at higher level. And let's hit Alt right. Now it's a super quantized melody. Now the real sample's played by hand, so it has way more swing to it. So I turned up this swing parameter. It actually sounds dope on the track. So it's a little aggressive, but it's at 50%. Okay, so here you would just add sound effects like transitions. See if we can find any. This is the classic white noise transition. We're just going to turn this way down. Okay, so I'm gonna reverse this. You don't need to memorize what I'm doing right now. This is really just adding stuff to this track. Let's reverse this sound. We need to line it up to the grid. Here's a tip, hit Alt, left click to line this up to the grid when you reverse the sound. So now it's gonna reverse into the... And we can work on the bass and the kick. I just don't want to spend 2 hours on this right now. Adding more claps for you guys. Let's bring in the original to see if they sound. Okay, so subtle differences here and there between the notes. I didn't copy the melody exactly. All right, so now I'm going to get rid of the audio because we're not going to share audio. Let's get rid of that sample. Okay, but you can find these project files for free if you go to busyworksbeats.com, sign up for free. So we got rid of the audio, and let's see how this sounds. All right, so there's minor things you could touch up on, but you guys will get the project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com, click in the video description below. Peace out, guys.